दफा 370 35 से 5 अगस्त 2019 को ये दोनों तारीख का हिस्सा बन गए। जम्मू कश्मीर को लेकर हमने इससे पहले भारतीय जनता पार्टी के चीफ स्पोक्समैन और सीनियर एडवोकेट सुनील सेठी से बात की, लेकिन अब बात करनी है लद्दाख को लेकर। केंद्र सरकार ने लद्दाख को यूनियन टेरिटरी बना दिया। यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाने के बाद आज 1 साल हो चुका है। मेरे साथ हैं ब्रिगेडियर कंवल लखनपाल। इन्होंने लद्दाख में एक लंबे समय के लिए सर्व किया है। आइए इनसे समझते हैं कि लद्दाख को जो यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाने का फैसला था, उस फैसले के एस्पेक्ट को समझने की कोशिश करते हैं। ब्रिगेडियर साहब, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका।
थैंक यू।
ब्रिगेडियर साहब, सबसे पहले मुझे ये बताइए कि लद्दाख को यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाना, आप इस फैसले को कैसे देखते हैं?
लद्दाख को इतने सालों के बाद यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाना वहाँ की डेवलपमेंट के लिए बहुत अच्छा है ये फैसला। इतने सालों से 47 से लेकर अभी तक वहाँ पे कोई खास डेवलपमेंट नहीं हुई थी। स्पेशली कम्युनिकेशंस जो थे बहुत बैकवर्ड थे। एयर ट्रैफिक बिल्कुल नहीं था, तो कम्युनिकेशन was the major problem for the defense forces. With the Ladakh having become the union territory, now it is at par with the rest of India, and the major projects are taking place. Major roads have come up to the border, which facilitate the communication to our forward areas. So it is for Ladakh, especially our area starts from Ladakh, from Chor Batla to Batalek in Kargil area, bordering Gilgit and Baltistan, goes up to Siachen, then it goes to Karakoram Pass, Dolpik Goldi, Track, Gopshan, then goes to the lake where we had the problem,
Pangong Lake,
Pangongso Lake, Galwan Heights, then the hot springs, Phukche, and then it borders the whole Spiti area.
So how do you see this militarily? Do you see this as a big military decision, or is it a political decision?
It is a big military decision. Background is military because we didn't have communications right up to the border, and Chinese could build up from their side much earlier because it is all plateau from their side. From where our side we have to climb for 3 days to reach the plateau.
This is what used to be the practice, that we used to climb 3 days and then we would reach to the plateau.
It is not much better today, but only thing is that there is a road which exists from Pangongso side right up to the DPO and Karakoram Pass, where we can reach there. I was there from 1983. 1980 to 83, we used to days to go from the base from Prathapur sector, 3 days to reach Karakoram Pass. Now it takes 1 day to reach. You go by.
आप इसको मिलिट्री फैसला समझते हैं या आपको ये लगता है कि एक सियासी फैसला था? क्योंकि लोग कह रहे हैं कि सियासी.
No, it is सियासी part is there very much. You can't say कि separate both कि it is only सियासी and not military, but it has a military background.
इसका हमें क्या फायदा होगा ब्रिगेड साहब? क्योंकि एक तरफ चाइना है, दूसरी तरफ वहाँ पाकिस्तान है। करगिल की जो हमारी चोटियाँ हैं, उन चोटियों पर पाकिस्तान आया था। उसके बाद करगिल 1999 में हमने उन्हें खदेड़ भगाया वहाँ से। लेकिन पाकिस्तान की प्रेजेंस और चाइना की प्रेजेंस, इस प्रेजेंस को आप किस तरीके से देखते हैं? और ये जो फैसला आज 1 साल हो चुका है, 1 साल के बाद इस वक्त स्थिति ये है कि चाइना जो है वो हमारे बॉर्डर्स पर आ चुका है और बॉर्डर्स के अंदर है, वो भी एक हकीकत है। तो आप कैसे देखते हैं इस फैसले को, इस परिप्रेक्ष्य में जो मैंने आपको बताया?
To decide this aspect, you have to go to a little background. You would recollect that in 1983, when the Siachen Glacier issue came up, it was a very 1983. Okay. It was a very peaceful area. When Colonel Kumar, our mountaineer, Indian mountaineer world fame, he visited that area of Siachen Glacier, he found certain litters of tins, food packets there with the Pakistan markings. He came back and gave the report to the GOC 3-day, who was General K.K. Sood at that time, and told him that major military operation can take place there. Pakistanis can bring in troops there, and Chinese will link up the road to Pakistan through that area. The army headquarters took it very seriously and ordered me to send a patrol to that area. I sent a patrol. We saw it. It was extremely difficult to operate in that area. It was height, it was minus 40-degree temperature, and there was no communications. We used to have a yak moving in front of the patrol to reach the Siachen Glacier. To since the yak could smell the crevice, that was a major advantage that time. There were no snow scooters, there were no roads, so it used to be walking.
Now we have snow scooters these days. Yeah.
Yes, snow scooters are very much there. Today you go right up to the base of Siachen in vehicles, and from there you have the snow scooters. Your patrols can go on snow scooters. So much facilities are there. Helicopters are based in that area. We had no tanks in Ladakh. We had no armored cars in Ladakh.
लेकिन उसके बावजूद ब्रिगेड साहब एक साल के अंदर अंदर इतना बड़ा डेवलपमेंट हुआ कि चाइना पेंगोंग तसो तक पहुंच गया, चाइना गलवान में पहुंच गया, और अब जो लेटेस्ट इन्फॉर्मेशन आ रही है कि बहुत सारा मिलिट्री बिल्डअप है वहां पर। तो आपसे समझना चाहूंगा कि अगर ये फैसला हमारा यूनियन टेरिटरी बनाने का सही था, तो फिर ये जो चाइना कर रहा है ये क्यों कर रहा है?
Firstly, it is wrong to say the Chinese are built up now. Pangong Tso Lake, 2/3 of Pangong Tso Lake was with China even in 1980, 83. By tenure, it was very much there. 1/3 portion was with us. Only difference is the moment their boats used to come, our boats used to come back. The moment our boats used to go, their boats would go back. There was not a clash. That was the only major difference. Otherwise, Galwan Heights were very much there. The major advantage which Galwan Heights has for China is because they are able to dominate our road which goes to DBO through Spring.
दौलत बेग ओल्डी, ओके।
दो बेग ओल्डी तक जो सड़क जाती है उसके ऊपर वो ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हैं। Whereas we have advantage of number 4 post where we can dominate their highway which goes to Karakoram Pass.
Okay.
So naturally they want to have their observation on our this thing and cause difficulty to us for moving on that road. So that is of tactical importance to them. But their area has been with China. There is no denying to that fact.
It has been with China for a long time now.
For a long time, during the Congress rule, their patrols used to come. We were given orders not to react. When our patrols went there, they also did not react. So it was a peaceful living there.
Okay.
But now the tension is taking place because of the road communications. The government has decided.
Is it that because we are building the roads? Is it that they are building? What is the reason for the conflict? Is it because building the roads?
No. Firstly, they were building roads and we never objected. Then when we realized, the present government realized that we are at a major disadvantage since they have a line of communication. Their troops can move much faster than our troops. So we also started making the roads. When we started making the roads, the Chinese came to know that they will be at disadvantage because once our troops also reach at the same time, when their troops reach, then we can confront them. So it is a major disadvantage to them. So they wanted to deny us the construction of the road. That is how this tension came up.
एज ए मिलिट्री कमांडर आप ब्रिगेडर रहे हैं, जानना चाहूँगा आपसे कि आपको क्या लगता है आने वाले दिनों में क्या होगा? क्या एक मेजर कन्फ्रंटेशन चाइना और हमारे बीच में पॉसिबल है, या आपको लगता है कि कन्फ्रंटेशन नहीं होगा बल्कि ये हॉट एंड कोल्ड वाला सिलसिला जो चलता रहेगा?
माई पर्सनल फीलिंग इज दैट इट विल बी हॉट एंड कोल्ड सिलसिला चलता रहेगा।
But how do you think we should react? Do you want कि हम वैसे ही रहें जैसे हम हैं? Do not react to Chinese repeated provocations. Just stay silently. Let them do whatever they want to do. They can come in. They can do whatever they want to do. Then they'll go back and we'll keep on sitting silently. Do you think that the best strategy to take on China is to take them on, hit them hard where we can, and make them realize that you can't, keep on fingering India, and you should not be expecting that we'll keep on staying silent.
There is no military strategy which says that you keep lying low and let the enemy build up. You have to react. If the Chinese are building up, you have to take opposite. And opposition you can only do by strengthening your troops, by strengthening your communications, by strengthening your armaments there.
Is it advisable, can you just have those a large number of troops in that Galwan Valley or the subsequent places for a long time? Is it possible to stay there in winters?
It is very much possible. If we are staying in Siachen for a number of years now, almost 30 years, in fact 40 years, from 1980 onwards, we are there in Siachen, where temperatures go down to minus 40 to 45 degrees. There is a post called Chungtash. It is in a valley, where I was staying for 3 months. The temperature was minus 54. That is the coldest area in Ladakh. So if we can stay there, we used to play minus 54, play and volleyball. Troops used to play. Okay. So it is not difficult to live in that temperature. It is only people have to get used to it. The Ladakhis are so tough, you cannot imagine. I have had an incident where my doctor, senior medical officer, who was weighing 90 kgs, was climbing a log post which is 18,000 square feet height. He packed up about 1,000 feet below the post. It was getting dark. You couldn't leave the doctor there. A Nunu, a Ladakhi soldier is called Nunu. A Nunu, आप मेरी पीठ पे बैठ जाइए, मैं आपको ले जाता हूँ. You will be surprised that this 90 kg weight he carried at his back for 1,000 feet at minus 40 degrees.
What would be your advice to the military commanders over there who are stationed right now over there, who are keeping an eye on the activities of Chinese? What would be your advice to them?
We have to hold our post during winter, no matter how cold it is. We are equipped it, we are trained for it. The equipment is very much there. The strength is very much there. Chinese with strength, and we can play the game. We just to give you an idea, in 80, I had Ladakh Scouts. Strength was, of course, 2,540. The largest battalion, infantry battalion of the world, I was commanding. 3-day, which was the only field formation, 2 brigades. 1 brigade at Trishul, 114, and 70 brigade at Kyari. The 26th sector was looking after the Partapur sector, which was Turtok area, and later on the Siachen. There are almost 1 division there, 1 independent brigade is there, Ahmad brigade is there, 1 brigade is there. So troops have multiplied by 3 times there. So we are not short of troops. Armaments are there.
So what's your advice?
Hold on to the area and stop Chinese movement forward.
One more thing I would like to understand from you, the way Chinese surprised us, the kind of covert attack that the manner in which they covered, so our soldiers retaliated, reacted, and they did what was supposed to be. Do you think we should also surprise them in the same way, in the same manner in which they surprised us?
The Indian army is known as the gentleman army. We don't deceive people. We don't hit at the back. If we have to go and teach them a lesson, we'll teach them frontally.
Do you think the lesson needs to be taught at the time and place of our choosing, or do you think we shouldn't be doing that?
No, we should be doing that. Why not? We have the means to do it. If the Chinese have done this, we can also do it. But be gentlemen, attack frontally. Don't carry stones to hit the people. Don't carry the bricks.
There are people who are saying that since we have Rafale now, the best way out is that hit their bases, tell them that this is part of the line of actual control, go back to your part of the line of control. If you won't go, we will hit you since you are inside our territory. Is this advisable?
You must know this one thing, that Rafale is not the remedy for everything. Rafale is the armament, a particular air power which we have, which has capabilities which are not available to Chinese at this time. But they are working on it. Maybe another 2 years they will also have aircraft which have the same capabilities. So we should not over-dependent on Rafale. We have troops which can operate in that area even without Rafale. Rafale has the advantage of that it can go deep into China. Take off from planes in Assam and go deep into China. Whereas Chinese have a problem that from high altitude area they can only carry limited load armaments, whereas we can carry more. They have already built up the air power at Gilgit Skardu airfields. Something like 140 aircrafts have moved in there. We have also built up, not that we haven't built up, we have built up a power at Partapur, Thais airfield, Leh, even DPO we are landing regularly now.
So I would like to understand one last thing in the end of this conversation. Atmanirbhar Bharat, Prime Minister says we have to be self-reliant, that is the only way out. Yet we bought 5 Rafale from France and we were happy that we have got 5 Rafale finally. Why isn't it possible for a population of 135 crore people that we have our own indigenously built aircrafts, indigenously built these fighter jets? Can't we do that, and why haven't we been able to have this kind of expertise even after 70 years of independence? And one last thing, do you think that is the necessity of the time, this is the need of the time, that we should stop relying on France, America, Russia for weapons, for equipments, for best weapons, best fighter aircrafts? We should start producing on our own. Do you think, and why it hasn't been possible, and do you think that we should start doing this?
In my personal view, the government in the past has not taken interest into this way. They were dependent on our own defense factories, which were not really working. The man used to come in the morning at 9 o'clock and he would put in just 2 hours or 3 hours of useful work, and rest of the time he'll just wither away in doing the gupshup. If you have a proper commanding officer to look into a tank manufacturing factory, there's no reason why we can't manufacture tanks or we cannot manufacture aircrafts.
Can we manufacture fighter jets?
Why not? Now you are producing your own Indian small fighter jets like NAT. They are being made by India. The Modi, our Prime Minister's motive today is Bharat Nirbhar. Atmanirbhar Bharat. We can very much produce the guns we are producing now, armament we are producing, tanks we are producing. Only thing is the technology is not there. So by getting the foreign producers to establish our factories in India, pass on the technology to us in collaboration, then our scientists are good enough.
If China has been able to do it on its own, why can't we do it on our own?
It will take time. China has taken a long time to do it. They reached that stage. We haven't even started as yet. We just started about a year back or 2 years back. Our past governments never looked into this area.
Or is it that we don't trust our own people? We don't trust their abilities here. They're the same people who are working in India. We don't trust them. They are the same people who go to US. They are the heads of all the important companies in US. And then we say, look what kind of talent USA has. When the fact is that they belong to our own country.
You must have read lately in the media that Indian scientists and Indian armament technicians, they are producing much better equipment than the foreigners are doing.
So we need to trust our own people.
We must trust our own people. They are as capable as anybody else.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। तो ये थे ब्रिगेडियर कंवर लखनपाल। आपने सुन लिया कि लद्दाख दफा 370 के अमेंड होने के बाद 35 के खात्मे के बाद लद्दाख में जो कुछ चाइना ने किया उसको डील कैसे किया जाना चाहिए वो आपने ब्रिगेडियर कंवर लखनपाल से सुना। और ये भी सुना कि जो ये फैसला था ये मिलिटरी बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट फैसला था और इसकी बड़ी स्ट्रेटेजिक इंप्लीकेशंस फैसले की हैं और फैसला भारत के डिफेंसेस को लद्दाख में मजबूत करने के लिए है। ये फैसला चाइना के ऊपर नजर रखने के लिए है और ये फैसला चाइना का जो बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव है उसके ऊपर नजर रखने के लिए। इजाजत, आदाब।